Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. I'm so good to see everybody again. Hope everybody's doing well and enjoyed Book Talk Tuesday. Make sure you have a good spot. Awesome. Well, welcome to day 3 of Because of Winn-Dixie. Let's jump right into this, okay? I don't want to keep you too long for lesson today. I hope you've got the next clean sheet of paper ready to go. At the top, it should say Because of Winn-Dixie with an underline because it's our title. In the corner, we've got day 3 because that's just a great detail to have. Other corner, the date is 4/22/20, April 22nd, 2020. Amazing. Remember to pause whenever you need to, but I'm going to keep rolling so the video is not too long. Our comprehension skill for the day and for these next 3 chapters, chapters 4 through 6, is inferencing. Everybody say inferencing. When I look at the word inferencing, right away I see I-N-F-E-R, the word infer. And I think about inferring and looking for details, and it reminds me of like a detective almost. And it goes right along with what inferencing is, because inferencing is using what you know and the clues from the text to come to a logical conclusion. I mean, infer, detective, clues. It's all right there. When you infer and use inferencing, you become the detective of the story. And you're looking for the clues, and you're looking for what it means, and what are all the details. And I'll say it again. Using what you know and the clues from the text to come to a logical conclusion about what you're reading. I added 2 bullet points under the definition. Better than a guess. We started with making predictions at the beginning of the story. Now we're inferencing. This is better than the guess. We're using the material in the book, the quotes, the different, mostly the quotes, but just the story to figure out what's happening here. And then I also have supported by text evidence. Amazing. We've learned about finding text evidence our whole year. We can read an article now, and we can find the most important things, and we can answer questions based off what we read. It's amazing. And then I have this little diagram down here. It looks like a puzzle, because as the detective, you have to solve the puzzle. And that's, in the corner, I've got what I know, so my prior knowledge, what I've already known from reading previous chapters, from my predictions, from what we've talked about at Book Talk. And then what the text says, taking direct quotes from the text. We are going to learn a lot about that. We're going to learn about how to properly use our quotation marks. You've already done it before, but we're going to practice. And we're going to take direct quotes from the text to help us solve problems. And then that is inferencing. What I know, what the text says, you got this. So I'm just going to pull up my chart real quick. If anyone needs to pause to take notes, remember this is on my Google site. And I'm going to keep going. Don't want to keep anybody too long today, like we said. And then what comes next? We got our comprehension skill. We'll talk more about it in our work for the rest of the day and our book talk tomorrow. But we've got vocabulary for chapters 4 through 6. All right. And we've got 3 more words. So that will be 6 total words for this week that we have to remember. And I'll be giving you a little bit of an assignment about it on Thursday. First word, congregation. Congregation is a group of people assembled for religious worship. St. Barnabas is a congregation. We are a group of people who go to church together. Even in self-isolation right now, we can watch church on Facebook Live. St. Barnabas puts it on their website. We're still a congregation. We're still a group of people worshiping together. And then we got hollering. Ooh, I like this word. I like it. You better not be hollering at your parents or your brothers or your sisters. I'm watching you. Mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, aunts, uncles, whoever. You let me know. But hollering is another word for yelling. You guys know I don't like to holler at you at all. And then last word is hind. H-I-N-D. And that is at the back. So when I think of this word, I think of a group of people running together. You guys might see the high school kids running down the street sometimes. And I think of the hind as the back, the people at the back. So I'll bring this closer. You can pause if you need to, but I'm going to keep moving. Okay, and remember these are on the Google site, so you can just do these for notes. We talk more about them in book talk, but this is just the introduction lesson. Okay, so you started with your comprehension, you skipped 2 spaces and wrote down your vocab words. You're just going to skip another 2 spaces, and it's time for quick write. It's time for our journal, and this is a really cool quick write today, everybody. Our quick write is to write 10 things that you know about an important adult in your life. So you know how Opal in the last chapter, Opal asked her dad, Dad, you got to tell me 10 things about my mom. I'm 10 years old. I want to know 10 things. Now, I want to know the 10 things that you know about a certain adult in your life. It might be your mom or your dad. It might be an older brother or sister. It might be grandma and grandpa. It might be aunts or uncles. I'm going to give you mine real quick. So I'm actually going to do mine on my mom. My mom is, you guys know, super close with my mom. So 10 things about my mom. My mom is one of 8 children. She has brown hair. You could tell your parents to laugh. You know, we all dye her hair. Brown hair, brown eyes. She is 5 feet 2 inches. She's super short compared to me. She has an amazing smile. No, I guess that's not a fact. Excuse me. That's an opinion of mine that I think she has a great smile. So I'm sticking to the facts. Now it's getting hard. I'm getting put on the spot here. She is an accountant. So that's 5. I'm already done with 5. That was super quick. She is a mom of 3 kids, myself, my sister Madeline, and my brother Mitchell. She is a friend. She's got lots of friends. That is a fact. That's a fact. What else? She owns a workout studio. She has a lot of decorations. She loves to decorate for holidays. And one more thing about my mom is she is a person who everybody goes to for help. And everybody goes to for advice. And she would do anything for everybody. And I know that's kind of my opinion, but it's really nice to add in there. So that was my quick write about my mom. And I said them out loud, but write them down, you guys. And maybe give them to that special person during this crazy time. Pause. Do your quick write. Whoop, whoop. Turn me back on when you're ready to read. Okay, everybody. We're ready to read. We're ready to read. I'm doing this nice and quick today because I know the last one was really long and I don't want to keep you guys for too long. Chapter 4. Chapter 4. 1, said the preacher. We were sitting on the couch and Winn-Dixie was sitting between us. Winn-Dixie had already decided that he liked the couch a lot. I don't know many dogs who are allowed on the couch. 1, said the preacher again. Winn-Dixie looked at him kind of hard. Your mama was funny. She could make just about anybody laugh. Oh, she can make people laugh? 2, he said. She had red hair and freckles. Just like me, I said. Just like you, the preacher nodded. 3, she liked to plant things. She had a talent for it. She could stick a tire in the ground and grow a car. I like that. Winn-Dixie started chewing on his paw, and I tapped him on the head to make him stop. 4, said the preacher. She could run fast. If you were racing her, you couldn't ever let her get a head start, because she would beat you for sure. I'm that way too, I said. Back home in Whately, I raced Liam Fullerton and beat him, and he said it wasn't fair because the boys and girls shouldn't race each other to begin with. I told him he was just a sore loser. The preacher nodded. He was quiet for a minute. I'm ready for number 5, I told him. 5, he said. She couldn't cook. She burned everything, including water. Miss Moody's like that as well. She had a hard time opening a can of beans. She couldn't make head nor tail of a piece of meat. 6. The preacher rubbed his nose and looked up at the ceiling. Winn-Dixie looked up too. Number 6 is that your mama loved a story. She would sit and listen to stories all day long. She loved to be told a story. She especially liked funny ones, stories that made her laugh. The preacher nodded his head like he was agreeing with himself. What's number 7, I asked. Let's see, he said. She knew all the constellations, every planet in the nighttime sky, every last one of them. She could name them and point them out. And she never got tired looking up at them. Number 8, said the preacher, with his eyes closed, was that she hated being a preacher's wife. She said she just couldn't stand having the ladies at church judge what she was wearing and what she was cooking and how she was singing. She said it made her feel like a bug under a microscope. That's so sad that people at church were judging her. Winn-Dixie lay down on the couch. He put his nose in the preacher's lap and his tail in mine. 10, said the preacher. 9, I told him. 9, said the preacher. She drank. She drank beer and whiskey and wine. Sometimes she couldn't stop drinking. So this is a little sad. So if it's too much for you, you can just can continue on and skip it. And that made me and your mama fight quite a bit. Number 10, he said with a long sigh. Number 10 is that your mama loved you. She loved you very much. But she left me, I told him. She left us, said the preacher softly. I could see him pulling his old turtle head back into his stupid turtle shell. She packed her bags and left us, and she didn't leave one thing behind. Okay, I said. I got up off the couch. Winn-Dixie hopped off too. Thank you for telling me, I said. I went right back to my room and wrote down all 10 things that the preacher had told me. I wrote them down just the way he said them to me so that I wouldn't forget them. And then I read them out loud to Winn-Dixie until I had them memorized. I wanted to know those 10 things inside and out. That way, if my mama ever came back, I could recognize her and I would be able to grab her and hold on to her tight and not let her get away from me again. Oh, that just makes me want to hug everybody. This is kind of a sad story in a sense, but I think we're going to learn a lesson from this. I really like it so far. Chapter 5. Winn-Dixie couldn't stand to be left alone. We found out real quick. If me and the preacher went off and left him by himself in the trailer, he pulled all the cushions off the couch and all the toilet paper off the roll. So we started tying him up outside with a rope when we left. That didn't work either. Winn-Dixie howled until Samuel, Mrs. Detweiler's dog, started howling too. It was exactly the kind of noise that people in an all-adult trailer park do not like to hear. He just doesn't want to be left alone, I told the preacher. That's all. Let's take him with us. I could understand the way Winn-Dixie felt. Getting left behind probably made his heart feel empty. After a while, the preacher gave in, and everywhere we went, we took Winn-Dixie, even to church. The Open Arms Baptist Church of Naomi isn't a regular-looking church. The building used to be a Pick It Quick store, and when you walk in the front door, the first thing you see is the Pick It Quick motto. It's written on the floor in little tiny red tiles that make great big letters that say, pick, 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 quick, quick, quick. The preacher tried painting over those tiles, but the letters won't stay covered up, and so the preacher just given up and let them be. The other thing about the Open Arms is big breath in. Okay. The other thing about the Open Arms is that it's different from other churches, is there aren't any pews. People bring their own fold-up chairs and lawn chairs, and so sometimes it looks more like the congregation, vocab, is watching a parade or sitting at a barbecue instead of being at church. It's kind of a strange church, and I thought Winn-Dixie would fit right in. But the first time we brought Winn-Dixie to Open Arms, the preacher tied him outside the front door. Why did we bring him all the way here just to tie him up? I asked the preacher. Because dogs don't belong in church, Opal, the preacher said. That's why. We tied Winn-Dixie up to a tree and said how there was lots of shade for him and that it ought to work out real good. Well, it didn't. The service started, and there was some singing and some sharing and some praying, and then the preacher started preaching. And he wasn't but 2 or 3 words into his sermon when there was a terrible howl coming from outside. The preacher tried to ignore it. Today, he said. Ow, said Winn-Dixie. Please, said the preacher. Ow, said Winn-Dixie back. Friends, said the preacher. Ow, wailed Winn-Dixie. Everyone turned in their lawn chairs and fold-up chairs and looked at one another. Opal, said the preacher. Ow, said Winn-Dixie. Yes, sir, I said. "Go get that dog," he yelled. "Yes, sir," I yelled back. I went outside and untied Winn-Dixie and brought him inside, and he sat down beside me and smiled up at the preacher, and the preacher couldn't help it. He smiled back. Winn-Dixie had that effect on him. And so the preacher started in preaching again. Winn-Dixie sat there listening to it, wiggling his ears this way and that, trying to catch all the words. And everything would have been all right, except that a mouse ran across the floor. Oh no. The Open Arms had mice. They were there from when it was a Picket Quick, and there were lots of good things to eat in the building. And when the Picket Quick became the Open Arms Baptist Church of Naomi, the mice stayed around to eat all the leftover crumbs from the potluck suppers. The preacher kept on saying he was going to have to do something about them, but he never did. Oh my, you know I would lose it. I don't like rodents. Because the truth is, he couldn't stand the thought of hurting anything, even a mouse. Well, Winn-Dixie saw that mouse, and he was up and after him. 1 minute everything was quiet and serious, and then the preacher was going on and on and on. And the next minute, Winn-Dixie looked like a furry bullet shooting across the building, chasing that mouse. He was barking, and his feet were skidding all over the polished Picket Quick floor, and people were clapping and hollering and pointing. They really went wild when Winn-Dixie actually caught the mouse. "I have never in my life seen a dog catch a mouse," said Mrs. Nordley. She was sitting next to me. "He's a special dog," I told her. "I imagine so," she said back. Winn-Dixie stood up there in front of the whole church, wagging his tail and holding the mouse real careful in his mouth, holding on to him tight, but not squishing him. "I believe that mutt has got some retriever in him," said somebody behind me. "That's a hunting dog." Winn-Dixie took the mouse over to the preacher and dropped it at his feet. And when the mouse tried to get away, Winn-Dixie put his paw right on the mouse's tail. Then he smiled up at the preacher. He showed him all his teeth. The preacher looked down at the mouse. He looked at Winn-Dixie. He looked at me. He rubbed his nose. It got real quiet in the Picket Quick. "Let us pray," the preacher finally said, "for this mouse." And everybody started laughing and clapping. And the preacher picked up the mouse by the tail and walked and threw it out the front door of the Picket Quick. And everybody applauded again. Then he came back and we all prayed together. I prayed for my mama. I told God how much she would have enjoyed hearing the story of Winn-Dixie catching that mouse. It would have made her laugh. I asked God if maybe I could be the one to tell her the story someday. And then I talked to God about how it was lonely in Naomi because I didn't know that many kids, only the ones from church. And there weren't that many kids at the Open Arms. Just Dunlap and Stevie Dewberry, two brothers who weren't twins but looked like they were, and Amanda Wilkinson, whose face was always pinched up like she was smelling something real bad. And Sweetie Pie Thomas, who was only 5 years old and still mostly a baby. And none of them wanted to be my friend anyway, because they probably thought I'd tell on them to the preacher for every little thing they did wrong. And then they would get into trouble with God and their parents. So I told God that I was lonely, even having Winn-Dixie. And finally, I prayed for the mouse. Like the preacher suggested, I prayed that he didn't get hurt when he went flying out the door of the Open Arms Baptist Church of Naomi. I prayed that he landed on a nice soft patch of grass. Opal's such a kind soul, everybody, isn't she? So, as we've said, I'll read 2 and you read 1. So chapter 6 is your responsibility, and then you continue on with your note sheet for today. And we will discuss everything at Book Talk Thursday. But I want to talk about one question on your note page for today, and that's the inferencing question at the bottom of the page. Remember, you don't have to print these pages. You can just copy them onto your notebook and no big deal. But the inferencing question, it says, find a quote from the book that supports the following statement. Write the quote on the lines. And the statement is, Opal really misses her mama. And from chapter 5, I think you could find many quotes to support this, to support what we already know about Opal missing her mom. So I look forward to the quotes you come up with. We'll talk about them tomorrow in book talk. I love you guys. See you later. See you tomorrow. Be good. No hollering at your families. And enjoy chapter 6.